again. So what is the CPU? What is CPU? And what are the different CPU manufacturers? CPU specifications and heat sink. Importance of heat sink and what is the CPU system restart itself again and again. What is the reason? Possibility is one of the possibilities heat sink getting overheated. Okay. Next. RAM and ROM. Next is RAM and ROM. RAM and ROM are primary memories. What are the primary memories? RAM and ROM. RAM, random access memory. ROM, read-only memory. So very important, guys. One is that is RAM and ROM differences. So very basic common question in RAM and ROM. Random access memory, read-only memory. RAM is a temporary memory. ROM is a permanent memory. RAM is an example of volatile memory. ROM is an example of non-volatile memory. ROM is an example of non-volatile memory. Okay. When you power down your system, when you power off your system, whatever the data in the RAM will be gone. Okay. But ROM is a chip. ROM is a single chip. Whatever the data is in the ROM chip is pre-built instructions, means already instructions, everything is inside, so it's not removed. Okay. Your RAM is can able to changeable. RAM is actually, we can change it. So as we like already have a 4 GB RAM, we can add another 4 GB, make it as 8 GB. Or you can replace the 4 GB RAM with some other RAM capacities, right? We can add it, remove it, or replace it. We can do with a RAM. But ROM is not like that. ROM is a fixed chip. And the motherboard, you can't remove the ROM chip. Or at least like a RAM, you can't remove it. So RAM, as always, we see in the angle of size wise, 4 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM, 16 GB RAM. But ROM, we will never see the ROM as a size related kind of stuff. Okay, so that's the. Once again, guys, RAM and ROM, read-only memory, RAM, random access memory. RAM is temporary memory, ROM is permanent memory. RAM is an example of volatile memory, ROM is an example of non-volatile memory. Okay, RAM, sorry, volatile memory meaning is, so when your device is off, the data is lost. Non-volatile memories, even though your power is off, device is off, means device is off or disconnected from the device, still the data will be available inside a device. That is a non-volatile memories. Non-volatile memories, the best examples are hard disk, SSDs, pen drives, SD cards. These are all non-volatile memories only. Okay. So RAMs, I'm adding extra points. RAM, we can able to add, remove or replace the RAMs. As you can do it or a technician can also do it. But ROM chips are not like that. It's not simple to remove and replacing the ROM chips.
Sir, example for RAM memory when power of data lost.
RAM is direct RAM only. There is two things about a point of RAM, RAM or a volatile memories. Okay, so these are the different RAMs. Okay, so for a computer RAM. Guys, first of all, RAM not only power off the system, means your laptop you turn off. I said RAM, what are the data in the RAM will be gone, lost. So it won't be stored. Not like that. It's not only that point. Not only that point. For example, if I close this browser, so I have a 4 tabs or 5 tabs are open with a different data, right? So first of all, Chrome application. And I open this Chrome application, the application, Chrome application data will store into the RAM. So where is the Chrome application in my hard disk? When I double click on this Chrome icon, the operating system understand you want to open and see the content, so you work with this Chrome application. So Chrome application related data is in your hard disk, is loaded into your RAM. Now you open a tab. So the tab related things will be loaded into your RAM. You open a website, then website or web that document is whatever the data is here, that is also the tab and tab related data is in the RAM only. For example, you close one of the tab. For example, I close this tab. That tab and tab related instructions and data will be removed from your RAM. So you don't require to be shut down your PC. Once you close that application related data and instructions will be gone from the RAM. Means whatever you are working with the system, that system related instructions and data, including your operating system. First one is when you power on your system. So what it will be loaded? So your some post instructions, then bootable files, then your operating system files, right? Then your application services. So what are the currently running in my system when it is system is while system is running? What are the things are running? All the related things will be in the RAM only. So RAM never store any data permanently. So as long as an application is running, so that application data instructions will be loaded. Once it is closed, it is gone from your RAM. You shut down your PC, the entire your operating system, applications, your data, which is stored in a RAM, okay, that will be again done. Okay, that will be gone from the RAM. So I just given one correct example, that is your actual applications, your operating system actually stored in your hard disk. When you power on your system, this operating system, applications, and data load into your RAM. Okay. Once you shut down, it will be gone from your RAM. But still, when a backend is there. Okay. That is a RAM. How it is? Volatile memories. Other than RAM, volatile, we don't know. It's like a temporary. Yes. Anyway, I explained about RAM again. Yes, RAM memory is also called as physical memory and main memories. Okay. The RAM is used to store data, instructions, programs into the RAM. Okay. It's a primary storage for your CPU. RAM is a volatile memory. Okay. So volatile means it is a temporary, means whenever power is off completely, whatever the data in the RAM will be gone. Okay. Next, this RAM also having two types. One is static RAM, another is dynamic RAM. Static RAM is also called as SRAM. It is used as a cache memory, which is built inside of your CPU. And we are using a dynamic RAMs, DRAMs. These DRAMs is a little slower than the static RAMs because it is used with a different components like capacitors, transistors like combination, and it is a cheaper also. And dynamic RAMs, different dynamic RAMs also there. So one of the dynamic RAM like a DRAM, then SDRAM came. In dynamic RAM, there is a SDRAM came. Synchronous dynamic RAM. This synchronous dynamic RAM further developed into DDR-SDRAM, double data rate SDRAM. Then it is become DDR2 model came up, then DDR3 model, DDR4, DDR5 also released into the market. And currently in market, DDR5 and DDR4 RAMs are And these RAMs also having a specifications. Guys, when you say about RAM, the first point is always size. Okay, first point is always size. 4 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM, 16 GB RAM, like a size is comes up. And every RAM has a speed. A clock speed is also there. For every RAM, there is a clock speed. Okay, CPU has a clock speed and same RAM is also having a clock speed. Next. Different RAM models, already we discussed that different RAM models are there. DDR4, DDR3, DDR5 models. Different processors support different type of models. Depends upon your processor, you have to choose your model. And this processor also comes with different voltage levels. What are these different voltage levels? Okay, so like a 3 volts operating voltage, 1.5 operating voltage is also. So these are the RAM specifications. And some more few points about RAM is also there. For example, you want to add a new RAM, or you want to replace the existing RAM, or you want to upgrade your RAM, means already 4 GB is there, you want to remove the 4 GB and put a 8 GB in it. Or you have a 4 GB, you want to add a one more 4 GB or 8 GB and increase your RAM capacities. Or your RAM is not working and you want to buy a new RAM and put a new RAM. So what are the things are important here? First is CPU supporting is there, maximum RAM capacities for maximum RAM capacities. Okay, size wise, how much size you have to take. The capacity is like CPU support is there on that. Speed support is there on that. CPU speed is there on that. Memory types. What is CPU memory? Okay, type means DDR3, DDR4 support, frequency support means clock speed support, size wise support is there from the CPU on that. Based on the CPU, you have to take a RAM. Next is motherboard support. On motherboard, how many slots are there to insert your RAM? How many slots are there to insert your RAM? Okay, and these slots also meant for certain model of the RAM only. For example, I have a old laptop that is support only DDR3 model, not DDR4. So I can't insert DDR4. I can only insert DDR3 only. Okay, so nice. And better to check with your older RAMs. Okay, better to check with your older RAM. You know, as I said, no, I have old laptop. It came with a 4 GB RAM. Now added an extra 8 GB. But before adding extra 8 GB, we have checked the existing RAM. We check the existing RAM and what is the existing RAM details. It's showing it's a low voltage, so 1.5 voltage operation. It's a DDR3 model. Okay. So like that, we got a certain details. Based on that, we purchase a new RAM. So when we ask what is the generation of your processor, it's a third generation, I, i5 processor. So yes, okay, up to 16 GB you can upgrade. So take this 8 GB, add it to the 4 GB. Then it is working. Okay, guys, it is certain matches compulsory. Have to check compatibilities with your motherboard, CPU is compulsory. Next, packages of this RAM. If you see any IoT devices like Arduino Uno boards, okay, Raspberry Pi. It's integrated RAMs are there. So most of them are a chip type of RAMs they are using. It's like a small IC, look like a small IC like one. But in the computers and laptops, we use these models: SIM model, DIM model, RIM model, SODIM models. Of course, the SIM models we are not using right now. What we are using is DIM, dual inline memory modules. Generally, for a desktop purpose, use DIM models. The first picture showing is a desktop model of RAM. Is inserting into the desktop motherboard. Okay, it's a DIM type of RAMs. Next, SODIM. SODIM RAMs, we use it for laptops and mini PCs. It's a smaller the size. The form factor is smaller compared to the DIM. Okay, it's a SODIM, small outline, dual inline memory module. Okay, for laptop, SODIM. For desktop, DIM. What is this in middle? RIM. Rhombus inline memory modules. Most of the is nothing but a DIM only, but little bit extra that is called a heat sink and additionally added to your RAM. So certain systems, for example, people are using for a heavy duty purpose, heavy duty like playing games, okay, audio, video editing, multimedia kind of stuff. So they need the RAM is getting heated. Okay, they're working on the system, RAM is getting overheated, it may be damaged. To prevent it, to overheating damages, so we apply an heat sink on it. Okay, so and another place is your servers. In the servers also, this 24/7 servers are running. It is means lot of heat is generated sometimes, so better to maintain the constant temperature. So then people use in some places these RIMs. Okay, for desktop, DIM, for laptop, so on. And these RAMs also coming with a different pins configuration. Okay, each RAM has a different pins and notch configuration. So that's why even if it is a your DDR3, DDR4 is look like same, but still we can't able to use it in a same. Okay, so up to here. So what is the RAM? What is RAM and ROM differences? What is the RAM? Main memory, physical memory, different models of the RAM, RAM specifications. To upgrade or replace the RAM, what are the things we have to take care? Next one is the packages, DIM and SODIM packages. We have discussed. Then we are going to discuss about a some issue. Okay, in CPU, we discuss the CPU is getting overheated, system restarts itself again and again. Okay, so why system is getting why processor is getting overheated? Because of heat sink paste, or maybe heat sink fan not properly working or not properly installed. A dust formation, right? And here it is a RAM related. For example, your RAM is not sitting properly, or a dust formation on the RAM, or not sitting in the slots properly. Okay, or your RAM slots are damaged, a dust formation on the RAM slots. RAM is not working. So what will happen? You power on your system, nothing on the screen. The screen shows completely a blank screen. The monitor is on. So the monitor power LED is showing it's on. The CPU is also, your system is also on. Means because of this, if you power on your system, the power supply is in showing that is on, but nothing on the screen. Not even an error message. There is no error messages. Just your screen is showing blank screen. Not even a no signal error. Not even a no signal error. Nothing on your monitor. Okay. You may hear a continuous beep sounds. Okay. Power LED is blinking, hard disk LED is not blinking. The keyboard LED is also not blinking. So the overall point is called a post failures. Post failure power on self test failure. So there is a possibility if you are getting this like a blank screen errors or black screen errors. Okay, there is a possibility your RAM is loosely connected, RAM failure, dust formation on the RAM and RAM slots. What to do? Open the cabinet, remove the RAM, clean the RAM edges with a eraser. Okay, and clean RAM slots with a simple hand blowers kind of stuff. Okay, and reconnect it. Verify working or not. Not verified, sorry, not working. Cross verify the RAM with the other RAM. So try with a new RAM or try in a new system with this RAM, like a cross verification. Confirm that RAM is working or not. Okay. If RAM is not working, you replace the RAM. RAM is working means it's not a RAM related issue. It may be other component related issue. Okay. So we discussed about CPU and the RAM and two components we discussed and their specifications and two issues. One is CPU system restart itself again and again. What is the cause? Possible CPU is getting overheated. So what is the solution? Clean the CPU. So clean the heat sink. If it is dust formation is there, clean the heat sink and verify the heat sink assembly, heat sink fan is running or not, heat sink paste is applied or not, or cleaned up. Next is you power on your system, you got a blank screen. So what is the possible? RAM related things. Either RAM loose connection, RAM not working, okay, dust on the RAM edges. Dust on the RAM edges. So these are the two components. Next one is ROM. So read-only memory because you want to start with the ROM. So ROM and BIOS. What is a BIOS? What is BIOS setup? What is a BIOS settings? What is BIOS setup and BIOS settings? Okay. And then what is CMOS battery? What is CMOS battery? And what if you are getting a issue when you power on your system? Your system checks some bad. So what is that? Next, about your motherboards and SMPS. Okay, about motherboard, SMPS, storage. Okay, all these things we will discuss tomorrow, guys. Okay, so already this entire hardware part I given in this our running notes, so you can access with the link. So 1 second. So this is the diagram I'm trying to explain earlier when you ask for the cache memory. So you have a processor. The processor contains two main modules. One is ALU and CU, arithmetic logical unit and control unit. Control unit will do the processing related control information, how to take, how to give kinds. ALU is actual arithmetic logical work it will be done. So your IO controller or a south bridge of your system. Okay. So some people call it a separate IO controller. Some people south bridge as IO controller. So whenever you are connecting your input output devices, all the devices, their input output kind of stuff, instructions, we load it to this south bridge or IO controller. Then it is go to that instructions and data go to your RAM. RAM to cache memory. Okay, so cache memory to CPU. So CPU take the instructions and data from your cache memory. and cache memory will get it from the RAM. CPU process it and put it in the cache memory, and cache memory will, from the cache memory, RAM will take the instructions and then. And the RAM again it will send to the IO controllers. Okay, IO controllers. So, or a south bridge. So then this will be send it to your monitors or a storages. Right? So I open this file. Okay, it is showing on my screen. So when I click on that, so obviously that is clicking instruction taken. Okay, it process it and display the things on my screen. Once my work is completed on this document, I close it. So it will remove from the RAM also. Okay, if I save that file, it's saved into the disk, like a display and storage. Network. Like what is the next? What is the purpose of it? Like based on that, it will go. So there is a south bridge and north bridge. North bridge. North bridge is a kind of chip. It is a chip which is maintain the communication between your CPU and RAM. CPU and RAM communication will be maintained by this north bridge, and south bridge will maintain the connectivity to your RAM to other peripheral devices. Okay. So cache memory also having a different levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay. So remaining guys, we will going to discuss tomorrow. If any possibility, please go through once the document. Okay. That's it for today. Tomorrow we'll see. We'll complete these components tomorrow. Okay. So, is any questions? We'll see first. Okay. This document also I will share it. Okay. Once again, I will going to